And here we go. We stopped our A/B test, the data is in, it's time to evaluate our experiment. If you have done everything right until this point, this will be really easy. First, you have to take a look at your statistical significance number. Let's say you have set a 99% target, so if it's above 99%, then you can go ahead and check your success metric as well. If version B brought in more conversions than version A, version B won. If it didn't win, version B lost. Simple as that. Or at least it should be as simple as that. But the evaluation step can go sideways too. How? Well, I see many people lying to themselves when they evaluate their A/B tests. They say things like, okay, we set 99% statistical significance, but 80% will be okay for now. Or, registration was our primary success metric. We didn't manage to increase that number, but the number of registration form visits went up, so let's just say version B won. We talked about this at the preparation phase, and if you have done that part right, this problem might never occur. Also, I hope that at this point, you know that these are just excuses. 80% statistical significance is not okay, and evaluating your test based on anything else but your primary success metric is not okay either. If this sounds obvious to you, that's great, but in real life, these things are pretty common. Here's a real example from one of my clients. We are talking about a huge online business, so we ran a landing page A/B test and we wanted to increase the number of new registrants. Pretty standard so far. The company had a lot of website visitors, so the experiment ran for 2 weeks and we got a lot of data. But here comes the trick. The success metric was the number of registrations. It was written down very explicitly, but just in case, the marketing team tracked more metrics so they could see the whole funnel for version A and version B too. They measured the number of visits on the landing page, the number of click-throughs to the registration form, the number of people who filled in the registration form, and the number of people who registered. These were the results. Could you evaluate this test for me, please? Yes, you are right. This is a neutral A/B test. The registration conversion rate is pretty much the same in both versions. This should have been the end of the story. We stay with version A, we collect our takeaways, and we figure out something else for the next experiment that would work better. But one of the marketers came to me and he said, "Look, Tommy, we worked a lot on this new version. It might not deliver more registrations through, but for sure, it brings more people to the registration form. Why don't we release version B and then we can figure out how to optimize the registration form?" Typical mistake. Remember the bias called cherry picking that we discussed at the preparation step? The marketer guy just cherry picked the metric that showed what he wanted to see. Again, if you have more than one success metric, you will always find one that you can use to confirm what you want to confirm. But if you want to A/B test like a data scientist, you define your success metric before the test and you stick with it at the evaluation phase too. By the way, if I had wanted to argue, but I didn't, about the results of this test, I could have pointed out that the conversion rate between version B's step 2 and step 3 is much worse than version A's. So yes, version B brings in more visitors to the registration form, but they are lower quality visitors. That would have been my cherry to pick. But it didn't really matter. This argument would have been a total waste of time. There is an old saying in data science, if you torture the data long enough, it will confess to anything. It applies here very well too. The truth is that our success metric was the number of registrations. It didn't go up, so our experiment was a neutral one. The moral of the story, you should never lie to yourself when evaluating your experiments. Always stick with the things you have defined before you started the test. Either we talk about the level of statistical significance or the primary success metric that you have chosen.